Welcome back, and still with Egypt's participation in the Indian-African Summit. And to know more about this issue, we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Jilan Allam, Egypt's ambassador to India. Hello, Mrs. Jilan.
Yes, hello. Yeah, but let me tell you that I am the former ambassador to India. I'm not anymore the ambassador to India now.
Okay. Ambassador Jilan, what is the importance of the participation of Egypt in this African-Indian summit?
Well, I think the participation of Egypt in any forum that is a serious forum that allows it to be a partner in any venture in any economic venture or political venture is very important. Our relationship both with India and Africa is a very serious relationship. It's an old relationship, it's a historical relationship, and I think it is very good, and it's appreciated that our president will be present in this summit. Let me tell you that be it bilateral relations, is the voice clear? Because I see I can't hear well. From is the voice clear?
Mrs. Jilan, do you hear me? Mrs.
Well,
Jilan.
I can hear you, but I can't. I keep hearing myself again. I'm sorry.
Okay. No.
I just wanted to make sure that the voice.
Can you lower the volume of the television, please?
No, I don't have the television on.
Okay.
Actually, so.
Okay. And a former ambassador to India, from your own point of view, why now India is heading towards Africa?
Well, India has been always, has always had very strong relations with Africa. Let us remember that Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer in South Africa, and this is where he started his campaign, to return to India and to start, getting rid of the British occupation of India. So I think there is quite a few diaspora, or let us say, from the subcontinent to Africa. So the relation between India and Africa is not a new one. It's not a new direction. It has always been there. So, but it is, as India is growing economically, and as Africa also is growing economically, let us remember our viewers that some of the African countries now are having some kind of rate of development of growth that is beyond the 5.4% per year. So Africa is really a very rich continent. It has, if we remember or realize that 60% of the arable land in the world are in Africa. So we will know how rich it is if we know that the World Bank is having some kind of a geological survey of Africa to know exactly what, from outer space, to know exactly what kind of resources are under the land. If we know that Africa, some of the African countries are members of the OPEC organization, we will see that Africa is really a continent of the future. And the demographics there are not helping them. So I think it is only legitimate that India eyes Africa, bearing in mind also the proximity. Remember that the monsoon winds have to and from Africa to India. So there is so much that really relates India to Africa. But
okay.
Egypt now is part of Africa and is really coming back very strongly to Africa. I think they have supported us in so many ways, and I think we are willing very much to play also a role. There is the possibility always that both India and Africa, and I think there has been some discussion about that, is to have some kind of a tripartite ventures with Africa. That is, India, Egypt, and African countries will have some kind of tripartite ventures, of course, aimed at the benefit of all.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, it's the interest, the relations of countries in this modern world are always based on the interests of all the countries involved.
Okay.
So there is no shame or nothing wrong with countries trying to seek how they can benefit from each other, of course, in a fair and decent and legal and friendly way.
Okay, Mrs. Ambassador, India currently has oil investment in Mozambique, South Sudan, Egypt, and Libya, and is also the biggest importer of crude oil from Nigeria. What other domains can witness investments between India and Africa? What India can provide Africa with more?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, India is the number six in world production of pharmaceuticals. For example, I mean, Africa has been unfortunately the victim of so many epidemics. In Africa, it is still suffering from that. So I think India can help Africa in this regard. India can actually export foodstuffs and food to Africa, and I think also technology, information technology. India is very much advanced in this, and I think that Africa can benefit from the knowledge and the incremental effect of information technology on every sector in Africa. I mean, there is a lot. If we keep looking, at what can Africa, I mean, it can help in infrastructure. And let us remember one very important element.
Yeah.
India has a lot of expatriates living in Africa, even as African citizens. So I think it has a very strong foothold in Africa, and in that it can help it a lot, actually.
Okay, Ambassador Jilan, with such high potential, what is hindering, from your own point of view, from being one of global economic blocs? We are seeing larger powers are coming to Africa for investment. So what is stopping Africa from becoming a leading economic bloc?
Well, there are quite a few elements there. I mean, let me start by saying, that that China is a very avid, has a very strong foothold in Africa.
Yeah.
And it has also, in Africa-China, very strong forum also that is working with the African countries.
Yeah.
The United States also has the same story. The United Kingdom has the Commonwealth, the Commonwealth of Nations, because with its former colonies, of course now there are countries. So there is a lot of eyes looking, towards Africa. Why it's not standing on its own? I mean, the obvious reasons was a long history of imperialism and occupation and abuse of the potential and the wealth of this continent. Now it was left with a lot of differences, territorial differences, and it was always, there was an enhancement of the racial and the religious, tensions between. So Africa has seen a long history of intra-African conflict in the country that have eaten a lot. Africa does not have the technology or the financial means to be able to invest in its own territories. I mean, look at, for example, compare South Africa to some other less fortunate countries. I mean, South Africa has just gone out of apartheid a couple of decades ago, but it has the resilience and what the apartheid regime has built into South Africa, and this is why it is able to stand on its own in so many ways. So I think we have anybody, be it Egypt, be it India, be it whoever who wants to come to Africa's assistance and its people on their feet. Again, I think they should do. I think they do have the moral obligation of doing that. This is my own personal view of how things can be running.
Well, Ambassador Jilan Allam, former Egyptian ambassador to India, thank you for joining us. And this brings us to the end of our special edition. I'm Dina Mamdouh. Please stay tuned.